This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
We're without our supreme leader and respected comrade this morning. Does that sound all right?
That's lovely.
That's good.
Our benevolent dictator.
The great helmsman.
Whoa. Come on, Steve. I like this job. He will be back very soon. But the good news is today, guess what? Or as I call you know what I'm going to call you instead? The boys who get bullied into having their homework copied back in town. Would that be reasonable?
The boys are back in the library.
Boys are back in the Bodleian.
Break time was too loud.
Yeah. That was the original version of the song.
Yes.
Guess who cried in the toilets today?
Steve. I am joined, of course, by the marvellous Mr. Novelli.
Oh, yes.
In cinemas now.
He's a very heavy boy. That's the catchphrase now.
And the splendid Steve Hall. Do you like that?
I like that very much.
Oh, you sounded so grateful, Steve. You can.
I'm not used to such charity.
You arrived with a flat cap this morning. It's all coming together. You can text the show on 81215. You can follow us on X. Still not working, that is it?
Yeah.
If you're going to rebrand, think about the verb. Follow us on X and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, or you can email us via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. I enunciated that in quite an old school TV presenter
I loved
way.
it. That was real. You could have done the voice of the talking clock after the tone.
I like
It
that
will be.
crisp enunciation.
Yes. Boys, I'm not going to lie. We all miss the king of comedy when he's not here. That's Frank, by the way, not you two. Sorry. I love you both, but there's only one daddy in this studio. I worry a bit sometimes, and I hope Absolute Radio won't mind me saying this, I worry a bit that, are we a bit like the sort of slightly less glamorous animals in the zoo having to raise their game when the monkey enclosure is shut? Do you know what I mean? Like when it rains and everyone goes, we're going to have to go and see the bats now. Better make the most of it.
Or the sort of palace of grasshoppers.
What's your worst zoo? What's your absolute, I will only do this in an absolute code red emergency situation animal that you will see?
Oh, it used to be, because I used to live near London Zoo, and so when the kids
used to be, it's evolved.
Yeah, when the kids were small, we'd go there quite a lot, and it'd be the ones where you couldn't see anything. It's like an animal that sleeps 23 hours.
Yes, yeah.
And the kids are insistent they will not move until they spot it.
It's going to come out. It gets nocturnal. They shouldn't even have it available.
I hate the ones that sleep. Play the game.
Because the zoo's shut when they're awake. It doesn't make sense.
Is that like the student enclosure?
Exactly.
They're just sleeping now.
The goths. Obviously, every day at 1 o'clock, it's the goth feeding display.
I'm actually seeing. You see, I think we are quite bat enclosure, Steve. If you don't mind me saying, Pierre, bit more bear.
Oh, yeah. What sort of loping out of a kind of concrete tunnel to pick up fag ends.
Bespectacled bear, don't get me wrong. You're a very literary, learned bear, but a bear.
Peruvian.
Now, listen, I need to tell you something. I went to see Frank's show this week, 30 Years of Dirt. I never tell him what night I go because I'm a woman of mystery and I like to keep it that way. But what I will tell you is that, firstly, Pierre, who was his support act, was phenomenally funny and brilliant.
Oh,
I was so proud.
Thank you.
And relieved. There's always a sense of relief, let's not lie.
It's always a relief.
Because you've said to your friends, I took my best friend and her husband, Jonathan, and my goddaughter, and you build these people up. And you think, come on, deliver. Oh, he delivered. And Frank's show itself, and I'm honestly not saying this just because I work with him, it was so hilarious. I'm going to go comedy masterclass, Steve Hall.
Fantastic.
My friend Jane, who I went with, she said, I honestly haven't laughed that much in a year. And I think her husband, Jonathan Ross, actually took that comment very stoically. Jonathan thought it was brilliant. My goddaughter, Honey, said it was brilliant. It got 5 stars from the whole family. We absolutely love it. So I do urge you to go and see it. It's on tour at the moment. Is that right?
It will be, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Keeping your cards a bit close to your chest there.
Yes.
It will be yes.
It's. I think we're finishing up the West End run, and then we're off around the country in a week or two.
Okay.
But yeah, we're everywhere.
In a week or two. Let's all Scarlet Pimpernel over there. Love it.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
A little distracted by the weatherman's jacket on TV. I appreciate
yeah.
this isn't very professional of me, but it's just it's an odd fit is all I would say.
Yeah, that's a spilt something on himself.
Oh, do you think he rushed in and grabbed
He's had
something?
to borrow something from someone else.
I need to tell you something briefly. I will stop talking about Frank's brilliant show, but I need to tell you something else, which is that when I was... there's some music that Frank comes onto, which you'll be familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah. I would describe it as... It's very peak Frank. It's kind of why I love him, but it is essentially a very 70s or / 80s man shouting.
Yes.
It's that kind of music. And when I was sitting with my goddaughter, Honey, and she said, "Oh, what's this music?" There was no shade there or tone, but she was intrigued. And I said, well, I was looking for a way to describe it, and I think she kind of nailed it. She said, oh, I know the kind of thing you mean. Is it when an angry man shouts, I grew up in an old shoe? And I said, yes, it sort of is that, really. I think that's fair enough. I think you pretty much nailed it.
Can we talk about the song? Can we identify the song?
Well, Jonathan Ross filled me in on this because he loved it. He said, are you talking about Jonathan Richman,
Yes.
is it?
I
Am
mean,
I right there?
Roadrunner.
Roadrunner by Jonathan Richman. It's one of the best songs of all time. I love
I grew
that
up in an
song
old
very,
shoe.
very, very
Yeah.
much. Well, Jonathan Richman's really happy, so most of his albums are incredibly upbeat. There's so
I
many
grew up
things
very happily in an old shoe.
Yeah. I grew up in an old shoe.
Well, it's just about loving
In an
driving.
espadrille.
I know, because I know Frank passionately loves that song.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I sent him an article once. There's a brilliant music writer called Laura Barton who did the drive that is described in Roadrunner.
Stevie's all getting a bit mojo now.
It's a beautiful song, and she drove. She did the
Okay.
Route 128 in America, and it's
Through the desert.
Nevertheless, it still sounds like someone singing I grew up in an old shoe.
Well, it's like oi oi.
Yes.
People shouting oi.
Yes.
70s punk English.
Oh, they love an oi. Now listen, an unusual way to start a discussion on a breakfast radio show, but I never said I was usual. You may recall I was banging on about my hatred of WhatsApp groups last week. Do you recall?
yes.
I'm not done. Okay? With my middle-aged rants about modern communication. I'm keen to know where both of you stand on the phenomenon of the missed call, because I don't know exactly when this happened. But it feels like, what would you say, maybe 10 years ago? Everyone collectively decided that the voicemail was phased out. That was done with. And you're deeply uncool and out of touch if you leave a voicemail. If you leave a voicemail now, it's the equivalent of saying, do you take traveller's checks, my good man? Would you agree?
I would agree, because it's like a sort of a voice note that I can only hear if I have to ring a different number.
Yeah.
Yes.
I find the way that people leave
Voicemail. We're not on voice notes. You're in your newfangled
but
things.
voice notes are immediate, whereas a
I
voicemail
see.
is like a voice note that I have to telephone a robot to get access to. Which is so insane.
There's 20 seconds of dead time.
Yeah.
And it's usually to discover that it's half of a recorded message about have you had an accident.
Yes, and also even when it's a real one, I think that the way that people leave voicemails, their tone of voice, I find it very embarrassing.
Do you?
'Cause
give me a classic voicemail tone of voice. So like, this is Pierre, I'm not in, please leave me a message.
So first of all, there's that long gap where people worry that they're not being recorded, and I hate that, because it goes boop, and then the voicemail goes, you have one message.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm just calling because we and there's sort of people trying to think like, oh God, what were the details of my call? What was my plan? And you can hear them trying to do it, and you just think, just text this.
Yeah.
Just text this to me. But a missed call is the worst of all worlds.
Well, I was just going to say, you're right. The voice note has clearly replaced the voicemail to some degree. But when did we all decide that the missed call was an acceptable way to leave, let's face it, a frankly passive-aggressive message. It's kind of, well, you'll never know, will you? Look what you could have won, you loser.
Or I'm at the bottom of a ravine. And this will haunt you forever.
It just seems odd that that's become okay. That we all think that's an acceptable form of communication. People will say to me, well, I left you a missed call. You left me a missed call. You may as well say, well, I walked past your house and swore.
If any readers have an opinion on this, they can phone the show.
I can't promise we'll pick up. But I tell you what, just hang up on us. It's a lovely way to communicate.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Can I tell you something quickly? I don't know if this is too much. TMI. Oh, I hate people that say that. I'm one of them. But I really had a terrible anxiety dream last night about hosting this show, which I've never had before. The producer, rather patronisingly, just went, oh, I heard you. There's a lovely lady called Daisy who sort of, how would you describe her, Pierre and Steve?
She's the major domo of the show.
Yes, I would say she is.
She's the godfather.
She is. She runs things from behind the scenes. And I had this awful anxiety dream that she'd called me. I woke up in a cold sweat, thinking this had happened, saying, I'm afraid it was an absolute disaster. Honestly. And it was about that she used the word absolute.
Absolute disaster.
Disaster. I thought she's making a joke at my expense. She said it just didn't work. So I'm really sorry.
Word.
But what
I hope Daisy's listening live because she knows the text that she needs to send you at the end of the show.
That's the text you said. It really upset me. And I'm really fond of her, but I felt really angry with her this morning. Do you ever get that with dreams? You get angry when you dream about someone.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's particularly the number of partners who've woken up furious at me
I beg
because
your pardon,
because of a thing I did in their dream.
Yeah, my girlfriend's done that. I've not done it. Maybe we're discovering a new gender difference.
Oh, ladies, eh?
The
And
ladies,
I tell you what, we take ages to get ready as well.
It's a bit more abstract, isn't it? If you saw an old school comedian going like, the thing about the ladies is they're haunted by their dreams.
Yes.
Oh, this is an odd tone for this guy to be taking.
How can I move on from this? Because I just don't think she should have said absolute disaster. I just think that was a bit off.
It was rude.
Yeah.
I got in trouble once for dream misdeeds.
Oh, did you? What did you do in your dream?
I think I kissed someone who wasn't my girlfriend in her dream.
And you liked it?
And then I paddled away in a canoe. And I sort of slowly slipped over the horizon.
Can I just say, that is the most peak dream way to exit a scenario. And then I got on the back of a giant shark. Why don't people ever use doors in dreams? Anyway,
it's always the thing that the canoe will be like, oh, it's a canoe. That means she had money concerns.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I want to apologise for telling you about my dreams. I do, you know my views usually on dreams. More boring than listening to your problems. But I had to make an exception because it's really, it's been weighing heavily on me. Anyway, let's return to the subject of the missed call. Possibly the rudest. I mean, I honestly, I don't mind if someone calls me, oh, you're not there, I'll try you later. It's this unspoken sort of contract we've entered into that is the equivalent of leaving a message. And the onus is now on me to respond to that person.
It's like writing "Where were you" in paint on someone's door.
I don't like the let them wonder suckers aspect of it as well. And I do it because if I don't, people will think I was born around the time of the abdication crisis, and I don't want them to think that. But it is the passive aggressive aspect of it that I take issue with. I had one recently. I had someone leave, I think it was between 5 and 6. Oh. Let's call it 5.5. Missed calls in a row within probably a 15-minute period.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, these people don't care. They'll keep going.
Yeah. That's I am at the bottom of a ravine level.
Yeah.
That's
Well, they
emergency.
better have been.
Well, yeah.
If they weren't,
I hope so.
I was going to have a problem with them. You'll find out what happened.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Boys, I want to actually, before I get onto the subject of missed calls again, I want to say to you that you can text the show on 81215. You can follow us on X and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, and you can email us via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. By the way, thank you so much, Steve, for being with us this morning, because, and you, Pierre, don't fall out, you two, because you dashed here from Birmingham.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. I'm in Birmingham last night and tonight as well, on tour with my good friend Steve Williams.
I like my good friend.
And we've sold it out as well. We don't even need to plug it on air.
Yeah.
We've sold them both out.
Getting a bit
Yeah.
cocky.
I mean,
isn't it?
London Leicester Square Theatre March 9th needs a lot of help.
You were in. You had a hotel.
I did, yes.
We put him up in a hotel.
Very-
I say
very
we.
nice.
I had no involvement. I want to ask a question. Did you get involved in robage? I'm always interested if people get involved in robage for the night, or whether they think, no, that's more of a weekend thing, the hotel robe.
I'm presuming you mean hotel robe. It's not. Again, I'm so out of touch. Robage could be some new thing that young people are doing. Have you never tried robage? All right, Grandad.
No.
No, I've never worn a hotel dressing gown.
Well, you see,
No.
Frank hasn't either.
I've never
yeah?
worn one, ever.
Why don't you wear these robes?
Well, partly, number one, I'm a naked walker. And
Whoa, Steve.
I mean, not through the corridors, but you know, I'm
Naked
one of
walker?
one of
What
my
are you, Game
first
of
acts.
Thrones?
Yes. too offensive even for George R.R. Martin.
Naked walk.
I don't like that. That's like a Game of Thrones late night special. The
Yes.
naked walkers. Sorry. Back to your...
because the first action I ever do at any hotel room, I am straight with the "Do Not Disturb" sign.
Yes.
Because things
bit
are going to
sleazy, Pierre.
No, I don't know. I think that's right. I don't like...
Yeah, not in a sleazy way, just in a...
What the naked walker says.
Yeah, just in a, I need the world to be...
Just in a leave me alone way.
Yeah, yes.
No, I agree with that.
Do you?
Yeah. If I'm in a hotel and they have a bath, I like to have an evening bath. And you don't need people knocking on the door telling you things about... I don't know. There's a
with
fire.
your naked walking and you leave me alone and your weird baths. You're sounding more and more like a Netflix documentary's about to be made about.
But I think wearing a robe in a hotel room if you're a man is more perverse than not.
Because I would be so worried. The only people who would wear that gown...
Yeah.
It's a bit like, you're meant to like wipe down the remote control because it's the thing in a hotel room that never gets cleaned.
Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
So I know people who bring transparent pouches to put the remote control inside so they don't have to physically touch it.
I also know some very, very insane people.
Transparent pouches.
Did you bring your remote sandwich bag?
Damn, I've forgotten the remote plastic bags. I always leave something at home.
It'd be like being a crime scene investigator in every hotel. Bag it up.
This is a marketing idea for hotels. People have to bring their own, the remote sandwich bag.
Here at the Hilton, we have our own creepy little bags for the objects in the room.
Let's draw attention to how unsanitised our bedrooms are.
Don't worry about our filth. It's in the bag.
And so, dear sir, consider how disgusting you know yourself to be. Then think there's been 10,000
Extrapolate.
people in the same room as you, all equally as mucky.
Or worse.
Do you know what the good thing is? I might try that, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't always have plastic bags on me, unlike you, it seems. But I do always have the dog.
Yes, that's
The
the
dog
thing.
bags. Do you think one of Ray's...
One of Ray's bags will...
I call them his comfort break bags.
Yes.
Do you think that would work for the remote control?
I think it would work, absolutely. And then you could still use it. Ray could still use it later on.
And they're not see-through, so it would lend a pleasing air of mystery to what channel you were going to put on.
Aren't they? Wow.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
We were talking earlier about the phenomenon of the missed call. The very rude phenomenon of the missed call.
The warning of it.
Yes.
You said you'd gotten 5 or 6 in 15
5
minutes.
or 6. And do you know what happened? Well, you're going to find out whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And they were one of those, I call them the sort of I'm not going down without a fight missed callers. They wouldn't let it lie. So by the sort of 5th call from the same number, didn't know who these people were, they weren't stored. Not in contacts. One of the most insulting things that can ever be next to your name in a phone. Not a contact. NAC, you don't ever want to be NAC. No. And so after the sort of 5th time, I thought this must be urgent. This must be an emergency. I'm going to have to pick up. So I picked up and a woman said, "Hello, is this Emily Dean?" And I was so stunned at the lack of urgency in her voice. I was absolutely livid. Do you know what I mean? I wanted her to be saying, "Help!"
Yeah. Or just the sound of distant gunfire.
Ideally.
Yeah.
And I said, I kind of did this intentionally. I said, "Sorry, what's happened?" Because I wanted her to know that she'd interrupted my life.
And she'd created an air of emergency.
Yeah. And she said, "Happened?" I said, "Well, you've called me 5 times in the last..." I mean, it was a very aggressive start to a conversation. I said, "You've called me 5 times in the last 20 minutes. What's going on?" And she said, "Oh, it's Lisa from Mercedes-Benz sales room. We just wanted to invite you to our special customer event."
Unacceptable.
Wow.
It was in April.
Oh, Lord.
And at that
We're
point,
now
you were like,
February.
"Well, that's fine then. I understand that was an emergency."
Phew, thank God you called.
If it had been BMW, I'd have been furious.
I said, "Lisa," by this time I was giving it full Lisa. "Lisa, why did you call me 5 times in a row?" And you know what she said? Lisa said, "Well, I just didn't want you to miss out on our exciting new deals."
Someone's getting a promotion.
I was so floored, and it was getting quite... I felt the emotional levels were rising. I suddenly felt it was like talking to an ex or something. I said, which was quite an odd response. I said, "It's just quite full on, Lisa." I honestly said that.
Bit needy, Lisa.
And I thought, where have we ended up, me and Lisa?
Lisa, I'm just not that into you.
It was. And I said, "It's just quite full on, Lisa." And there was a pause. And do you know how Lisa responded? She said, "Oh."
Goodness me.
Which, again, floored me. But I kind of respected her. Because then she said, "OK, so can I put you down as a yes then?"
That's fabulous. That is so great.
And you know what? I ended up feeling so guilty and responsible for her feelings, and like I'd maybe snapped at her and shamed her, that I think I might have to go.
Just go tap her on the shoulder 5 times, but walk away before you speak to her.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
You are listening to the Frank Skinner Show. There's no Frank this morning, but there is myself. There is also Pierre and there is also Steve Hall.
Hello.
We're all here.
Oh, I liked hello.
Yeah.
Lovely little lunchtime news programme. You can text the show on 81215. You can follow us on X and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, or you can email us via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. And we're very sad that Frank's not here, but we're going to do our best.
Absolutely.
What about when someone said to me, "Never look online, never look at what's said about you"? But I did. Whose was that? It was mine. Okay, I do apologise. That was my phone. And someone
I
said...
hope it wasn't a missed call.
Oh, can you imagine? It'll be the Mercedes-Benz woman.
Yeah.
Saying, "I just didn't want you to miss out. I know you're presenting the radio show, but I didn't want you to miss out on one of our fabulous deals." And someone had said, "I think you were very capable." Oh. What do you think of capable?
It's in the same realm for me as safe pair of hands.
Oh, I mean, only a goalkeeper wants to be described that way.
Yeah.
Really?
Or a jeweller.
Yes. Can we please let us... I would like to delve into our reader correspondence, because I do love our readers.
Absolutely,
And let's face it, they are really the chief content providers
They
for
are the
this show,
lifeblood.
particularly when Frank's off. So have we been hearing from the outside world?
Yes, well, on the subject, you were talking about missed calls in the previous hour.
I was.
And we've heard from Julie from Bognor Regis, who's asking the opinion of the team. She says, I wondered what your views are on hi being replaced with hey on emails and texts. Why was this necessary? Hi was fine and did the job perfectly. In my 50s, I've now got the dilemma of whether to stick with hi and immediately put myself in the old git category or to embrace the hey, which feels unnaturally. Am I too old to hey? Your advice would be much appreciated.
Great question, Julie.
Too old to hey?
What do you say, Pierre?
I'm not sure. Do I think hi is old? I don't think so. Hey is more casual than hi. And I know that sounds mad because they're both obviously casual abbreviations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hey, for example, if you had to write to your local councillor,
Yes.
and you strike me as the type that would, Steve, if you don't take that the wrong way.
That's fine. I would. What would I preface it? I'd preface it with word up.
Yes.
You wouldn't, dear. You see, dear feels odd. It feels very archaic. It feels a bit Jacob Rees-Mogg,
In
dear.
an email, it feels odd.
Doesn't it?
It feels a bit like writing from the desk of Mr. So-and-so.
It's a bit signing off the text yours sincerely.
Yeah, whereas I think I would not mind if I got an email from a bank that said hi, but I would find it weird if I got an email from a bank that said hey.
Yeah, you would immediately think that's a scam.
I'd go scam.
Yeah, it's up there with if they prefaced it with dear sir Wagwan, your bank account is overdrawn. You'd immediately think this is not real.
All right, fella.
I always think if I get a hey, I always think it's going to be bad news.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's their way of sort of softening me and trying to butter me up.
Yeah.
I'm a deeply suspicious character.
Yeah. Hey, you missed our Mercedes. Sorry.
Hey, Emily.
Hey, Emily.
I'm afraid the news isn't good. It's time to use one of the best phrases. You once shared this with me, Steve. Would you like to share this again? I don't think we touched on this last week, but whenever I see Steve, I am reminded of...
Yes, I think it was a cab driver, who there was some sort of lengthy delay or diversion, but it involved the journey being a lot longer, and he used the phrase, he said, well, that's the way it crumbles cookie-wise.
He said, I'm afraid that's the way it crumbles cookie-wise. And you know what? I've never forgotten it, Steve.
That's great.
Well, a long time later, I found it fairly recently. It's a line that Jack Lemmon says in the film The Apartment. But I love that at some point this cab driver will have watched Jack Lemmon and gone, I'm having that.
Or just heard it.
Yeah.
And gone, well, that's the phrase.
You see, so when I get an email, the reason I wanted you to remind us of that is because it needs to be shared with the world. But whenever I get an email beginning, hey, I think it's going to be, hey, Emily, and the tone will be, I'm afraid that's the way it crumbles cookie-wise. Do you see?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cookie-wise, the clown.
We could celebrate it, the Hay Festival. It could be a new set. But I don't think Julie needs to change. I think she can stick with hi.
I think if it's formal or an email to someone she doesn't know, hi. Anything else, hey.
I like that you two have laid down the rules for
These
her.
are the rules, Julie.
Yeah.
Get on board.
So you would, and how do you sign off? Best? All best? Nothing at all?
Yeah, nothing at all.
Just say thanks.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not I feel thankful.
Oh, don't do thanks.
No?
Thanks is worse than a missed call.
Is it?
I remain your faithful servant. That's how I do.
Your humble, obedient servant,
Yes,
Stephen Hall.
Yes, witness my hand this day, the year 2000.
You do actually
Little
say that.
JPEG of a wax seal.
Yes.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Let's share with the group some of our readers' correspondence.
Yes, so
That question to Pierre Novelli.
last week we were talking about, we'd had some correspondence sent in about fictional tourist sites. People in Verona can go and visit Romeo and Juliet's balconies, graves, etc.
Yes, I seem to remember I got very angry about the Harry Potter platform.
Yes, in King's Cross there's a trolley embedded in the wall, and people like to queue up and take pictures of themselves as if they're about to fly through the wall holding the trolley. And it's always got a long queue, and it never doesn't freak me out that there are people queuing in a section of railway station to stand next to a wall.
Does anyone ever just appear and say, it's not real, go home?
Stop it, waving their hands. It's fake. Yeah, well, I might start, because they block the way to the loo.
Do they?
Yeah, do, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you can go to Verona and visit Romeo and Juliet's fake graves and things, which is mad. And as we said last week, very English teacher.
Yes.
Very person laughing at Shakespeare jokes.
Yes.
So Becky writes in, following on from Fictional Tourist Sites chat on last week's show, I wanted to let you know that when I went to Dubrovnik, we were on a walking tour around the walls, and an American woman asked the tour guide, when did the events of Game of Thrones happen?
I like the events of Game of Thrones.
Yes. You know, the historical events depicted in Game of Thrones. The poor tour guide just responded in a very lovely and measured way that the TV show was filmed in the city from 2011 onwards.
Oh.
Very diplomatic. That's a difficult tennis ball that's been thrown at that
Yes.
and they've hit it back with some grace, because you don't want to humiliate the customer.
Don't you? Okay. Thanks for that.
Well, we're not an American customer, because they will tip you if you don't, if you're nice. So I definitely wouldn't if I was a tour guide in Dubrovnik. But the American woman wasn't having any of it, insisting he committed to hard historic dates on when a woman on a dragon destroyed the city.
Oh.
This happened in 2021, and my friend and I laugh about it every time we see each other.
You see, it's interesting because I never believe that. Whenever I hear about, I think it may have been Frank. I think, in fact, this is a Frank thing. That Frank says he never believes it. You know, when soap stars say people came up to me in the street and tried to punch me because of my storyline.
Yeah.
Frank says, I never believe that actually happened. I don't believe people are that stupid that they believe the soap. I never believe that someone would actually think the events of Game of Thrones happened. But now I trust Becky. She sounds like a trustworthy, reliable, honest source.
I believe this 100%.
Do you?
Speaking as someone who has been, a lot of the times when I'm back in South Africa, I've been traveling surrounded by Americans, or I've done things with our Americans there, and the questions they ask about Africa are along these lines.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah. There's and it's not an American thing. It's a person who, I imagine the woman would defend herself and say, well, obviously not the dragon bit, but the rest of the events.
The White Walkers, or should I say, Naked Walkers, as we've rechristened them this morning in honour of Steve Hall's revelation.
Robeless antics.
His habits.
Just one more word on the naked walking. I don't wish to be indelicate. Obviously, it doesn't bother you. Do you, with the naked walking, do you make sure you close the blinds?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, the blinds are quite high up, so
says you.
These days everything's hanging quite low, so it'd have to be a very, it'd have to be a picture window.
It'd be like Jason Bourne trying to snipe you. That's the only way he'd see.
I don't imagine Jason Bourne. Do you think Jason Bourne leaves a do not disturb?
I don't. Does he wear the robe though? I guess he could use the
Jason
the robe.
Bourne hasn't got. I tell you, who wouldn't wear the robe. Reacher.
No.
Reacher's not a robe man, is he?
No, he's in his boxers.
Reacher's not an anything man. Because all Reacher has, I only discovered this recently, so it's just a toothbrush, isn't it? Do you know about this?
Oh, yes.
Reacher, do you know about this, Steve?
I don't know
Jack
this detail.
Reacher. Are you familiar with Jack Reacher?
I am familiar with Jack.
Okay, I think why men like him is that he only carries a toothbrush around with him.
Yes.
That's it, is it?
That's all he packs or something.
If any of our readers are Reacher fans, that's all right. We're all God's children. I forgive you. What does he carry? I think it's just a toothbrush.
I think so.
No toothpaste.
No, because you can buy that, and but apparently
Salt.
That's the bit you don't see where Jack Reacher has I've just got to go to Boots.
Yeah.
There's a meal deal as well.
Do you know what? If it was a bit more like that, I might get involved.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
I nearly fell off my chair then. I don't mean that as I was laughing so much.
Or is he so delighted with Sheryl Crow?
Yeah, maybe that's how much I like it. So what's happening with the outside world, please, boys?
Simon has got in touch, and he says best wishes from Simon on the Black Isle.
Oh, okay.
Black Isle, which I like.
What's the Black Isle?
I think it's in Scotland, but I like it's quite piratical.
Do you know what the Black Isle is?
I'd never heard of it. I was wondering if it was connected to the Game of Thrones. It's another American believes it.
Well, it is. So Simon says, regarding people believing fictional things, he says Peggy Mount was doing an Evening with Peggy Mount tour. And she said that theatres reported people requesting refunds ahead of some shows because she'd played a character on Casualty who died. So they thought that she had actually died.
I don't know. I only know the name Peggy Mount from a Half Man, Half Biscuit song. I don't actually know who Peggy Mount was.
I believe Peggy... Where is Frank Skinner when we need him? I've got a feeling... When I think of Peggy Mount, I think of her saying her name like this, Peggy Mount. That's all I can tell you.
That's all you've got from the mists.
I see her sitting in the chair, spilling out of the chair perhaps, of the sort of slightly cantankerous, powerful woman who takes up space. But you know the woman on the sitcom who's a bit like, what, you coming round here? I won't have any of that in my nice boarding house.
A lot of gesturing with a cigarette.
Yes.
So
Anyway,
she's a Nora Batty type figure.
I believe so. I may be wrong in it. Perhaps our readers could give us a précis of Peggy Mount. We don't rely on Wikipedia or Google here. We rely on our readers.
Peggy Mount Précis, please.
Yes.
But I think that a reason I believe the fictional things concept, especially, I'm afraid, with an American tourist in Dubrovnik, is that on a few occasions I've seen Americans in South Africa become overwhelmed and start to rely on things like the Lion King as a source of valuable information for what's going on around them, openly and with no embarrassment.
What do you mean? So
to give you an idea of the attitude, we landed once at Johannesburg International Airport, which is a very normal airport. There aren't elephants on the runway. It's a very boring airport, and if you look out the window, you could be anywhere. Sort of scrubby grass, tarmac.
Oh.
And I had shared the 10-hour flight.
Hazy horizon. I love the hazy horizon.
Sure, but still, the hazy horizon, the same when you get in Spain or Greece or anywhere else. And I'd shared the 10-hour flight with a large group of American evangelical Christian teens who had, at one point at what would have been 3 a.m. UK time, began rapping about Christ. It was a lot. And when it was a bad flight. And when we landed, and the rap was good.
Was it?
It was very 80s.
Yes.
Jesus. It wasn't quite.
I'm MC God, I'm here to say.
Yeah, very much in that oeuvre, yeah. They were all extremely white, by the way.
They were very obedient, the 80s rapper. They never strayed from the rhythm, the basic rhythm. Anyway, yeah.
And as we walked down from the tunnel on a plane.
Oh, I know the tunnel.
With the little windows, they just looked out at the tarmac and like some brown grass, and they all stopped and went, "We are so in Africa right now." And I thought, what is different about this to anything you've ever seen? Just a tarmac.
I love that.
They were enchanted by the runways.
It's their version of we're not in Kansas anymore. Yeah. We are so in Africa right now.
That's the unwritten verse from Toto's Africa. As the tarmac rises above the Serengeti.
We're so in Africa right now.
Frank Skinner.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
So regarding hi and hey.
Oh, yes.
Somewhere where people say hey a lot, especially hey guys.
Hey guys.
Hey guys.
I don't like hey guys.
No, it somehow is passag, even though it's a greeting. I immediately go, why? What is it? I lean back. Hey guys. What? What are you selling? What kind of multivitamin is this?
There's a real flatmate complaining that someone's been stealing the milk from the fridge.
Yeah. Hey guys.
Hey guys, just want to say that whoever...
Now you're sounding quite influencer.
Well, so I was going to say, there's an article recently about the TikTok voice, which I think is also the YouTuber voice and the Instagram live voice, but it's big on TikTok. It's
an entire accent, isn't it? In its own right.
It's sort of half Valley Girl, half informational YouTuber. Because it's not full Valley Girl, because it doesn't have that sort of Orange County-like sassy reality show voice.
No.
It's a bit crisper than that. They enunciate very clearly, but it does have vocal fry, which I hate and makes me
Well, we should say, so
upset.
It's called the TikTok accent, they're calling it. And I don't go on TikTok very much at all. I think I've been on it once. And it was quite extraordinary.
Oh, it's awful.
It was people I couldn't believe it, Steve Hall. There were these people were live broadcasting themselves whilst fulfilling retail orders in shops. Not that there's anything wrong with doing that, but I don't want... There was a woman in a takeaway pizza place there were like 1 million people watching this and going, hey guys, just had an order in for a deep pan with extra cheese, so busy. Keep subscribing, just had my millionth follower.
It's monetised nihilism. It's fascinatingly bleak.
And then they're all very, very loud, the videos. A lot of music and screaming.
There was someone working in a warehouse of a clothing factory just going, so I've just had some new orders in. It was extraordinary. Anyway, this phenomenon is the TikTok accent, essentially, which is, I call it the hey guys voice. I think that's a good way of describing...
Tick-talking.
And apparently it's the future of the English language. And we should also say uptalk is the rising inflection at the end of every sentence.
That used to be a sign that you just watched Neighbours too much.
Yeah, that was...
Because it's an Aussie
That was
thing.
exactly it. It's exactly it. It's funny, it kind of resurfaces as a story every couple of years. And it used to be that you just wanted to move to Erinsborough or Summer Bay. That was what it meant.
Yeah, it used to be that it meant that you watched Neighbours.
I think what's interesting is that there was a linguistics professor talking about this, and he said... uptalk can actually be a sort of politeness strategy.
Yeah.
He said we often reach for it when we have to break challenging or difficult news to someone. I'm not sure I agree with that. Because I don't really want, say, a neurologist saying to me, we've got your test results in. Afraid it's really bad news.
Hey guys. Bad news on the x-rays? No, I would immediately, I'd say I need a different...
Hey guys, bad news on the prognosis.
Just out the window.
Yeah, and then you throw some vocal fry in there as well.
Yeah.
You've totally got...
I'm afraid it's pretty bad news.
Actually, I've got to be honest.
It's a fungus, man.
I'm quite liking the sound of this consultant, now you come to mention it.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
Boys, we're discussing this morning. I should say, by the way, you can text the show on 81215. You can... What else can you do? You can follow us on X. X is never going to happen, is it?
Frank on the radio.
Why did you jump in?
I'm trying to do the uptalk.
Oh, I see. I thought you felt you were saving me because I'd forgotten it.
No.
I was a little bit offended, if I'm honest.
I was just diving in on the vocal.
I thought you'd had a text from Daisy, the person who runs the show, in reference to my dream, saying this is an absolute disaster.
You can follow us on X.
Follow us on X and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, or you can email us via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk, and please do. So we are talking about, this whole phenomenon of the TikTok accent and uptalk and vocal fry.
And vocal fry.
Do you think that's what they call... That was Stephen Fry's nickname. That's how they teased him at school. Vocal fry.
Oh, vocal
Never
fry
shuts up. Oh, vocal fry. I would have called him that.
That's a great nickname.
That's what he should call himself that. He should do a podcast.
Oh,
yes, Vocal Fry.
This week on Vocal Fry.
Vocal Fry.
Well, I didn't realise in the articles about vocal fry, I didn't realise, apparently it was first recorded in British broadcasters in the 60s. Performers, so that was where it was originally from, but because it was men, it wasn't frowned upon. So apparently Sean Connery had elements of it in his acting, and George Sanders, who's the voice of Shere Khan in the Jungle Book, was renowned for his voice. And then you listen to it and you go, oh, that's exactly, it's an early... but because it's a man doing it, it's absolutely fine and carry on.
Oh, I see. So vocal fry, we should just establish, in case we weren't clear, that's I call it the Kardashian voice. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
It's the crackliness of when the sound goes into the back of your throat. And I think I don't mind it in the middle of a word, but it's that what you just did there, where it elongates the end of a word, or when people use it in that California way to lapse into incomprehensibility, where they say things, they sort of go, the thing is, I went to the show last night, I was pretty good about it. And it just becomes like nothing.
Yeah, it's like-
sorry, what was that? Could you speak up, please?
At the end of the sentence, they've gone over a cattle grid.
Yeah.
It's just a noise at this point.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm sort of hosting University Challenge. Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I mean, there
Makes
is-
me feel insane.
There is an element of you about that all the time, Pierre, and that's no bad thing. I think the thing that I take issue with when it comes to vocal fry is that it sounds so sort of eternally bored and uninterested rather than disinterested, but uninterested, bored. I just wish you'd go away and shut up. It's got that energy to it.
Yeah, it's I'm not listening as well. It is a bit, I guess that's just the way everything goes.
There's a contempt, I feel, with it.
The thing, vocal fry's distance, isn't it? And then uptalk is like softening because you're almost saying that everything's a voluntary question.
Yes.
What we're going to do is we're going to put you in jail. Because it goes up at the end, you feel like you could go, but I don't want to go to jail. And they'd go, okay.
That would change every film if it was delivered.
You're all right, you're an attorney.
You will come to the dark side.
I'd love it if there was a rule, because they do say that language is evolving, and I appreciate language does evolve. Even I accept that things change. However, I do think I have no problem with young people talking like this. That's yours. You have that. Enjoy. Where I struggle with uptalk is, I think, over 45, 50. It's a bit undignified.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear anyone on the Antiques Roadshow saying, OK, I think I can value that for you.
This vase was my grandfather's.
Yeah, the King's Christmas speech. I'd like to wish Happy Christmas to the Commonwealth.
Also,
And a very Merry Christmas.
I don't...
Really sassy.
And also, I think once you get to the pensioners' age, I don't think you can be walking into a sort of, a transport office saying, I'd like to apply for a pensioners' freedom pass.
Yeah. I'd totally need a new mobility scooter.
There's just a lack of dignity. And also, save our news. I don't want any uptalk on my news. Do you?
No.
How's that going to work?
I don't want the newsreader asking me what's going on in the world.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
You can text the show on 81215. You can follow us on X and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, or you can email us via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. I should say I'm Emily Dean.
That's very important information, yes.
Well, I realised I haven't said that. I mean, how arrogant. I played your jingle earlier. What did I go for? I went for The Boys Are Back in Town, and we established that you could not be less like The Boys Are Back in Town.
Yeah, it's the boys are back from hospital. The boys are back from their experimental asthma treatment.
The boys have got a sick note excusing them from games.
The boys are back at home. Yeah, they're back at home.
The boys have cried off school today.
Yeah, the boys are watching Nightmare.
What else? What's been happening? I feel a tremendous sense of power when I say that, because I realise Frank says it sometimes.
Yes.
I've copied Frank.
Yeah.
He'll sit back and he'll say, what else? And it's kind of the equivalent of saying, over to you.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Well, we've heard from the outside. We have quite a few people, including 056 on the texts. We were discussing vocal fry. And quite a few people there's a brilliant TV show called Louder Milk, starring the magnificent Ron Livingston.
I've seen it.
A lot of people. My wife loves Ron Livingston. Berger from Sex and the City.
Yes, that's how we know him.
But it was also in Office Space, one of the finest comedy films of all time.
He is very well known to us ladies. We know him best as a character who broke up with Carrie using a Post-it note. No one does that to Carrie. He broke up with her on a Post-it note. It said... And I'm sure your other half will back me up. It said something like, sorry, just can't do this. Okay? Even the boys are shocked.
Wow. Anyway, so he's gone on to be in this show Louder, and someone's even identified Series 2, Episode 1 has him berating a girl in a coffee shop for using vocal fry. In fact, that clip has gone, but it crops up quite a bit.
How dare he after breaking up with people on a Post-it note? I like the sound of that person when they say Series 2, Episode 1. That sounds like a nice friend for you, Steve.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't you think?
With the abbreviations, where they say, "Oh, it's in S2E1."
Yeah. I like you.
The code.
I think sometimes when people refer to seasons, it sounds a bit grand though. So, for example, I do a podcast in addition to this, as you may know, and sometimes people say, yeah, so what season you want? Oh, come on. What season? What is this, Succession? It's a dog podcast. For goodness sake.
Well, because I know Frank's poetry podcast is on something like series 9 now. It's really had a magnificent run.
Series I can live with.
Well, series is the British one,
isn't it? A season, I think, sounds a bit delusions of grandeur.
Because series is British and season is American, isn't it?
Correct.
What do you do with Bud? Because obviously last week someone let us know it was the 900th show of the Frank Skinner Show with Bud Pod. How many? Do you count how many episodes you've done?
We count.
This is the podcast you do with the magnificent Phil Wang.
With Phil Wang.
You're turning into some sort of commercial.
Pod chat.
What is this? Some advertorial?
We've only missed a few weeks in the years we've been doing it, so it's just on. It's just constant. It's like the news. It's never not on.
It never stops.
It's never-ending nonsense. Yeah.
You just never stop. Yeah. You're like Vocal Fry. Why doesn't he do a podcast called Vocal Fry? Someone should have suggested it, don't you think?
Definitely. And there'll be a lot of sort of Latin puns.
Yeah, but he won't be using the Vocal Fry.
No.
Because he's one of the few people. I like the producer. You noticed this week? I think she's just edging in a bit. She's just coming in quite a lot. There's been a lot more.
Yeah.
You know what she's felt like a bit, and I do love her dearly. It's felt a bit this week like, you know, you've got that friend in the group of friends, and you'll say something, she'll go, I know, disgusting. It's awful. I know he did. I know.
The validator.
Yeah, that's exactly
it's a really valuable part of any group.
Oh, you need a validator? It's a bit like the Equaliser.
Yeah.
Except all they do is... And I like those people.
Yeah.
I know. That's exactly what I said.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Where are we? I don't know where I am. I've suddenly lost all sense of what's happening in this show. Oh, yes. I want to talk to you, Pierre.
Yes.
About what's been going on in your life.
Well, as a cultured highbrow man, I did a cultured highbrow thing. A friend of mine has published a book of poems, a poetry book.
Really?
Yeah. He is a poet, I will say. He hasn't had a
He's a proper poet.
A massive breakdown and self-published an enormous book of mad poems. Although I would also enjoy that if that happened. No, he's a proper...
I've got to be honest, I prefer that in some ways.
In some way, yeah, they'd certainly be outsider art, authentic.
That's interesting then. So is he a professional poet? Would that be on his passport, poet?
I'm not sure, actually. What do you put when you're a poet? Do you just sort of put writer?
No, I think you should put poet, wouldn't you say? I mean, I would say...
Yeah. It's definitely his thing.
The implication would be if you are a poet, on your job applications, it would say, I stack shelves, or I'm a barista.
I think if you're a poet, you should know it by definition. You should own it.
But the rhyme tells us a lot of people are unaware.
You wouldn't want it written anywhere where someone would question if that was at customs, and someone goes, oh, you're a poet, are you? Well, give us a poem.
Or harder to get a visa in one of those countries where they go, right, and you're going to meet the income requirements, are you, for living here in America? With your poems, are you?
That was some advice. I think my late father may have said that to me once, which was never date a poet. I think he might have been right. Yeah, or a foreign correspondent.
Yeah. I think for other reasons, that's very good advice.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the poet who does know it.
He does know it because he is a proper poet. He's licensed. He's a fully licensed and insured poet. He's not just a freelancer. He'd published a sort of pamphlet before, but this was a big deal. You know, you got your book coming out, and he had a book launch in a pub. Oh. Rented out a pub for it, him and the publisher, and it was a whole thing. And after I opened for Frank at the Gielgud, I went from a West End theatre to a poetry book launch, and I was walking there, and I worried that they wouldn't let me in.
Why? But presumably you had the Novelli signature jacket of it's a velvet smoking jacket. I can't think of anything more poetry.
Well, no, see, I wouldn't have worried if that was the case. You're right, because I'm dressed like the king of poems. I'm Commission 7 on the way here. That would have been good. But no, I left that at the theatre. I left that in the dressing room. I was dressed exactly as you see me now, in a big grey hoodie with
Steve,
a fitness
how would you
brand on.
sum up Pierre's look today? He looks a bit South African fitness instructor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah. Well,
Maybe you do maybe you're a South African fitness YouTuber. Hey guys.
Hey guys. Hey guys, what are we going to be doing today? Some weightlifting? Going up at the end?
Yeah, this is
horrible.
Good, really, I'm going to change
Some
it.
weightlifting?
I think
It doesn't work in the South African accent.
No, it doesn't
I don't
work.
think.
Anyway.
I'm dressed like a bully. That's why I thought they wouldn't let me in, because I'd show up and they'd go, sorry Hans, there's a poetry. sorry Corbus. Sorry Faf de Klerk, there's a poetry event on here. You can't come in here and start fights like you normally do in your little workout hoodie.
Yes, you don't look very poetic.
I don't look poetic, and I'm a very large bearded man. And I just thought they're going to say, well, we can't let him in. He's going to take everyone's lunch money.
I'm sorry, Pierre. I just want to sit with this for a bit longer. The fact that you just said, I am a very large bearded man.
Yeah.
The greatest thing you've ever said.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We were talking, I should say, we were having a lovely time, which we do sometimes off air, reminiscing about, do you remember that time I went to Wimbledon? And I sat with Frank. One of the greatest moments in my entire life was when Frank Skinner turned round. We were sat in between Example. Are you familiar with his work?
I'm not.
Could you give me an
Well, I couldn't, but could you? He's some sort of rapper, I think. And Serge from Kasabian, you're familiar with his work?
Yes.
And Frank turned to Serge from Kasabian and said, Palmer Violet, Serge. What about you, Example? I said, I don't know if you should actually call him Example. It's a bit weird. He said, these are the names I've been given.
Yeah. Would you like a mint, the Thin White Duke?
It had something of that about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the subject of the King of Comedy, we were talking about poetry.
That's it, yeah. Well, I went to a poetry launch.
You can't say that about a poetry launch. That won't go down well with the poetry people.
No, well, I thought I wouldn't because, as I said, I showed up in my grey exercise hoodie and my jeans and with my... Let's face it, rugby vibe.
You had the look of someone who would be interrogated, as you often point out yourself, by Louis Theroux.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a survivalist aspect to my appearance sometimes.
Well, it's interesting because obviously there is a physical resemblance to Jurgen Klopp. It's like if Jurgen Klopp played rugby rather than football, that would be...
Jurgen Klopp ate a lot of beef. I've never heard that before.
Come from?
I think there's a...
How good am I teeth looking that I get to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got real teeth. He's not saying, I went to an amazing dental clinic and if you want to get a discount.
A white gum shield and just put it in. But I did get in. I got some glances.
You got into the poetry?
Into the poetry thing, yeah. I got in and I looked around and everyone there, I was right to feel out of place to an extent because everyone there very, not just stylishly dressed, but a bit alternative.
What sort of clothes are we talking?
A lot of sort of like statement scarves.
Oh,
Some
okay.
dungarees. Some dungarees.
That's a word it's impossible not to say with uplift because you have to indicate.
Some dungarees.
Yes, you don't. It's impossible to sound like you have any gravitas when you say the word dungarees.
You can go up with dungarees, but vocal fry doesn't work. Some dungarees.
Question.
It's not sexy.
Question, and I'd like to put this out to our readers. Who knows if it'll work and they'll enjoy it, but let's give it a go. Favourite dungaree wearer?
Yes, that's good. Favourite dungaree wearer?
I'm going to go in. I've forgotten his name. Our readers can help us. But
Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'm sorry, but you know what that's going to call for? Too dark for breakfast. Okay? I'm not going to sing it. That's a Frank Skinner trademark, but it had to be said. No, you know my favourite dungaree wearer? Who was the man, or the old man? He was like in the Dukes of Hazzard or something. Or am I getting confused? He was like an old grampy figure.
Yeah.
With a gun.
Porky or something.
I don't know, Grandpa Hogg or something?
Boss Hogg?
Boss Hogg.
Yeah. Boss Hogg.
And where was he from? Dukes of Hazzard?
They're from sort of Mississippi or something, aren't they?
I don't know, but this sounds like a sort of conversation in a pub, not national radio.
I'm going to go Kevin Roll and Dexy's Midnight Runner's best dungarees.
Yeah.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
please tell us about your poetry, your little poetry evening.
Well, so it was...
Sorry, I've just seen something, Pierre.
Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but why have you got 2 very large packets of Haribo on your desk?
Some days are a 2-pack day.
Wow, okay.
When producer...
That's what they wear it, but that's they bring them to poetry.
When I say I'm a 2-pack a day man, I'm actually talking about Haribo. I have Star Mix I have Tang Fastics in the morning to wake me up. Fizzy energy, and then I pace myself with the Star Mix.
Oh, I love a Tang Fastic.
Yeah.
Who is the character attached to Haribo? Has he got?
Is it a little bear?
Oh, is it a bear? I thought it was a man.
No, it's a little bear.
Oh, okay, it's a bear.
A gummy bear.
Oh, okay.
Haribo is German, and I think they might be the least German-seeming sweet,
Yes.
but they are very German. Yeah,
anyway, back to
unsettling.
the poetry reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop reading the Haribo ingredients. Put it down.
I
Go
snuck
back.
in. I snuck
Yeah.
in like a bully, and I eavesdropped on some poems, and I talked to a lot of people with some very thickly rimmed glasses
Did you?
and collarless shirts buttoned all the way up.
Yes,
Oh,
I can
yes.
imagine there was a lot of that. Yeah, was there sort of a lot of Mandarin collar action?
Yes, and some very high shoes. But
Yes.
like platform, like the brothel creepers.
Yes, but with an ankle sock rolled down.
Of course,
okay.
of course. It's poetry after all.
I feel like we should name your...
Yeah, sorry. It's
Yes.
called Absence by my friend Ali Lewis. It's very good. I've shared it on my Instagram story. If you'd like poetry,
What I
you can go look at
like
it.
is that Steve, I feel, is the sort of PR.
Yeah.
He's always
yeah,
chiming in
steer-
saying, can we please make
God,
sure that
can-
all the
yeah.
credits are given?
Can you imagine how quickly you go bankrupt if you went into poetry PR?
Well, also, your
my God.
Instagram feed has power. You mentioned my wife's misophonia book this week. And
Yes.
her Amazon
Steve, you're
rank
getting over
went
the top
went
with the
way up.
PR.
Who she's mentioned, but it's right
No,
to
but
bring
I'm
up
sorry.
misophonia because you and I, Emily,
Yes.
are terrible sufferers
Are we?
of misophonia.
Yeah. I always think we're normal, but apparently you think that we're abnormally sensitive.
We're like Spider-Man.
Okay.
We can hear these sounds no one else can hear.
I've been on the tube with Pierre. That's my story. No, I've been on the tube and I've said, what is that? Why is everyone behaving like this is
It's
normal?
like there's no sound happening.
And
Well,
yeah,
sometimes a noise has happened and you turn to me an alarm and I immediately know the sound you mean and I just say, it's that pram. It's that pram's wheel. And you go, right.
So did your friend do a reading?
Yes, but I missed the reading because I was opening
Oh,
for
I
Frank.
see, 'cause-
So I turned up late to the poetry party. As
but
so many
that's-
listeners.
Because that would be a misophonia nightmare because it needs silence.
Yes, that would be bad. I wouldn't have liked that.
were there any? Can I ask if there were any capes in attendance? Don't take
Well,
that.
of course, Dracula was there.
And Jeff,
No, but I do
Jeff
see
Dracula.
the poetry community.
Jeff Dracula, Nepo baby. Don't ask him how he got his castle.
Yeah, we all know about where you got your fangs, your mini fangs. Oh, Lil Drac over there.
Little Drac.
Were there any capes though? Because that's my idea of the poet.
What was the most eccentric thing I
Is-
saw?
Well, I think there would have been a cape. Somewhere there would have been a cape. If you're a poet and you don't wear a cape, I don't want anything to do with you.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Have we been hearing from our wonderful readers?
We have a correction to make. It wasn't Boss Hogg in the dungarees. It was Uncle Jesse.
Okay. To be fair, I didn't commit hard to Boss Hogg in any way. I'm not going to say shape or form because
Few
I know
have.
people that say that.
Few
and
have.
it's when you see someone's sent a picture of Uncle Jesse, and immediately my childhood comes flooding back because he sort of looks like a redneck Uncle Albert,
Yes.
played by Denver Pile. Someone has told us.
I've just got a rather alarming question. I need this clearing up immediately. Did Uncle Jesse... Did he wear a top under the dungarees?
He's wearing a top, but it's a
Stripey?
long john sort of looking
I
thing.
can work.
yeah.
I can work with Uncle Jesse. I like a long john top. Any other dungarees?
Yes, there's a few. Anna Banana has X'd the show, saying her favourite dungaree wearers are all the Minions.
Yes, and she points out,
wear?
and they do wear dungarees.
Are they denim? No, they're the sort of doll denim, aren't they?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean by that? It's a slightly cheap two blue denim.
yeah, and thin.
No, yeah.
But Anna also points out one of our favourites on this show wears dungarees. It's Disney's Pete.
Is he a dungaree
In
wearer?
early incarnations, he does tend to be wearing dungarees. Obviously,
Does
in the
he?
Goofy movie, he is dressed as a
Yes.
suburban dad
Yes, quite.
and behaves very much like one. But early Pete, sure,
Yeah.
dungarees.
And 844 has said best dungaree wearer has to be Jeffrey from Rainbow.
Well, yeah, I mean, now you're getting into icon territory. Clearly, no one comes close to Jeff, as I called him.
That was his security team's policy.
Yeah. I never met the Rainbow presenter. I did get to, well, you won't be familiar with this. You were on the Isle of Man or in the, the Toto areas.
Foreign.
Yes.
I was so in Africa.
Yeah.
So we had real rainbows, actually. Didn't need rainbows filled with puppets. Like you guys.
I did get to tour some of the children's programme studios as a child because I made it there there were so many. There was Play Away. There was, but I don't think I ever met Jeffrey from Rainbow, sadly.
In South Africa, we almost exclusively had the very sort of Hollywood, sterile American kids' TV. And when I moved here, I found the slightly homemade kind of stitched cloth puppet aspect of a lot of British kids' TV. Absolutely harrowing.
Did you? I don't know how I feel about that description, Steve, of our
Absolutely
TV.
terrifying.
Stitched cloth?
Yeah, all these things that were made in a sort of hobbycraft class going...
I've never thought of that, the idea of Bagpuss being an object of terror.
But also just going like, wait, is a man done this in his shed?
Yes.
Was the budget for this 4p?
The answer to your question is yes.
Yes.
And
Where are the Power Rangers?
know
Where
you're-
are the robots?
I
That's what I
know
said.
you're subtweeting Oliver Postgate at this point, who made Bagpuss. What I also liked about British Kids TV was it was always a sort of gravelly voiced 70s actor who smoked 40 Marlboro a day.
Yes, sort of.
And the Bagpuss went back.
Vocal fry in acceptable form.
Yeah, from Hamlet. Too many Hamlets,
Yes.
vocal fry, and sort of remonstrating with a cloth puppet. Oh, don't do that. That's not how you make an egg. Or whatever.
Yes, they were oddly aggressive, these guys.
Yeah, they're always being told off.
So anymore, who are we going to go for? Who are we going to vote? Because, time is ticking on. Who is our absolute top
I'd give
dungaree?
it to Jeffrey from Rainbow.
All right, Steve.
But I'm not the judge. I'm not judge and jury.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Disney's Pete, just for how much he bullies Goofy.
Okay.
Hey, Goof.
I'm gonna go for Uncle Jesse just because I like being a contrarian,
Yeah, no,
and
nice.
you know what? I like to think it's Frank Skinner would approve of me. It's what he'd want me to do. Hey guys, we have so enjoyed having you with us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Frank will be back very soon. Up next, Sarah Champion. We'll be seeing you.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.